My wife cheated on me while I was crying. My brother's death, she blamed me, and years later at a wedding she tried to reconcile. But my new life blindsided her. I, aged 32, had been with my wife, Teresa, aged 30, for 8 years, and married for 4. We met at a party hosted by a mutual friend during our sophomore year in college. I was immediately captivated by her confident personality and sharp wit. Teresa was studying Fools while I was studying engineering. We bonded over our mutual enjoyment of outdoor activities and trying new foods. Our first date was a disaster. I lost my money and spilled wine on her dress. But Teresa ignored it, and we ended up spending hours wandering around campus and talking. I realized immediately that Teresa's drive and ambition was exceptional. They impressed as our relationship progressed. She came from a working-class family and was motivated to pursue a good career. I loved how she handled her studies, a part-time job, and internships. Teresa pushed me out of my comfort zone by encouraging me to apply for competitive internships and leadership positions in student organizations. After graduation, we both found good jobs in the city. Teresa with a lighting company, and I had an engineering firm. We moved in together after a year and got engaged soon after our wedding. It was an intimate and modest gathering of close friends and family. Teresa was lovely in her simple white attire, and I remember feeling like the luckiest man in the world. Our first few years of marriage were great. We both advanced in our careers, which allowed us to travel and enjoy life in the city. We had a wonderful group of friends, and we often always tried to listen to each other and find a solution. Teresa's independence was one of my favorite aspects of her personality. We both cherished our personal time and hobbies. Teresa enjoyed yoga and painting, while I enjoyed basketball and playing with antique cars. We supported each other's interests and struck a healthy balance between couple and individual activities. Everything changed when Masen, my older brother, was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and I had always been pretty close. He was not only my brother, he was also my best friend, confidant, and role model. Mason was always there for me growing up. He taught me how to ride a bike, helped me with my homework, and offered advice on everything from school to relationships. When our parents divorced during my teens, Mason became my rock. I attended college at the time, but he would call me every day to check on me. He was even coming home on the weekends to see if I was okay. Mason was the one who encouraged me to apply to college and helped me move into my dorm. On my ball, his best man speech moved everyone to tears. Tears of happiness. Naturally, Mason's diagnosis hit me like a truck. I had always been the picture of health. Ran marathons, ate properly, and never smoked. It seemed so unfair. I remember sitting in the doctor's office with him and his wife Sarah, feeling like the world was caving in on us. Since then, I have spent as much time as I could with Masan, took him to his chemo appointments, stayed with him in the hospital, and tried to cheer him up. Teresa was initially helpful by accompanying me on visits to Mason and helping Sarah with food and housework. But as the weeks turned into months, Teresa began to protest, claimed I was spending too much time with Mason and neglecting our relationship. I tried to explain to her how vital it was for me to be there for my brother, but Teresa seemed to resent the time I was away from her. We began to argue more frequently, usually because of my schedule or her feeling of abandonment. I tried to balance time with Mion and Teresa, but it was really hard. Mason's condition was deteriorating rapidly, and I wanted to be as present as possible for him. At the same time, I felt terrible for not giving Teresa the attention she craved. It was a no-win scenario. Despite rigorous therapy, Mason died 8 months after being diagnosed. I was absolutely devastated. Mason had been such a constant in my life. I couldn't imagine the world without him. Loss devastated me, and I sank into deep despair. I took a leave from work and spent most of my time on. Some days I could barely get out of bed. Everything reminded me of Mason TV shows we used to watch together, inside jokes we shared, and even ate particulars that I enjoyed. The pain was intense. Teresa tried to be helpful at first, but her patience quickly ran out. She kept trying to persuade me to get over it and resume our normal social life. She planned events and invited friends over, but I was unable to socialize. Teresa seemed to take it personally and accused me of pushing her away. This continued for about 3 months. I knew Teresa was going through a difficult time, but I was doing my best to deal with this huge loss I was attending. A grief counselor trying to process my emotions, but healing takes time. Teresa became increasingly distant and unpleasant. Then one day I received a call from Liam Mason's best friend since childhood. Liam had been like another brother to me growing up, and he had been a great help after Mason's death. However, this call was different. Liam's voice was unsure when she informed me that she saw Teresa at a motel with another man. At first I didn't want to believe it. I absolutely believed Teresa and couldn't imagine her cheating on me. But Leah emailed me a picture she had taken, and there was no doubt Teresa was in a passionate embrace with a man I didn't recognize. They were going into a hotel room. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. How could Teresa do this to me, especially since I was mourning my brother? I sat in stunned silence for hours, staring at her snapshot and trying to make sense of it. When Teresa came home that night, I confronted her, showed her the photograph, and asked for an explanation. She initially denied it, claiming that she wasn't what she appeared to be. But when questioned, she claimed that I pushed her into cheating on me by not being emotionally available. She was furious and heartbroken. I told Teresa to leave and that I wanted a divorce. She asked me to reconsider and give her another chance. She screamed and begged, claiming that it was a mistake and that she still loved me. But she knew I could never trust her again after this betrayal. The next day, Teresa called and texted me non-stop, trying to explain herself. She claimed I was being harsh and exaggerating. She signed that I had emotionally abandoned her by initially spending so much time with Mason and then withdrawing when I was grieving. She tried to blame me for encouraging her to cheat on me. I am totally lost. How could the woman I loved, that I trusted for 8 years, do this to me? Especially when I was grieving for my brother, and now she is trying to blame me. It is abnormal that I refuse to even consider reconciliation. I feel that my whole universe has been broken. I keep reviewing our relationship in my head, wondering if there was some indicator that I missed Teresa, was always so selfish, and I just didn't notice, or did Mason's illness and death transform her? I'm now doubting everything. A part of me is upset with myself for not anticipating this. Maybe if I had worked harder to balance my time between Mason and Teresa, this wouldn't have happened. But then, I remember a loving partner would have understood and supported me through such a difficult time. I still haven't told many people about the Teresa issue. I feel humiliated and don't want to deal with everyone's responses. But I know I will need help to move on, especially if I go ahead. If I go ahead with the divorce, I'm not sure what to do next. The prospect of going through a divorce while still grieving Mason is daunting, but I also can't picture him staying with someone who might betray me from this era. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Thanks everyone for your words of encouragement and advice to clarify some points. Teresa knew Mason and I were close. I had met him several times and he seemed to like me. He was in the hospital with me when he died during my grief. I never left Teresa completely out. We continued to live together, we had each other, etc. I just wasn't in the mood to date or get personal. Before I confronted you, Teresa, I did some research and found out that the affair had been going on for 4 months, not like she said, and it started shortly after Mason died. Teresa and I had no major relationship issues before this. We had regular arguments, but nothing significant. She never expressed feeling ignored until Mason got sick. I appreciate everyone's comments as I absorb. I will give an update on this betrayal when I have more information. Update 1. It has been about 2 months since my original post. A lot has happened, so I would like to give an update. I filed for divorce. Shortly after finding out about Teresa's adultery, it was not an easy decision, but I knew I could never trust her again after what she had done. Teresa's reaction to the PR divorce petition was a mix of outrage and desperate pleadings. She kept calling and texting me alternately, offering emotional apologies and accusing others. Teresa showed up unannounced at my office, making a scene in the lobby, crying and pleading with me to give her another chance. My co-workers were uncomfortable, and I was mortified. I had to have security check the schoolgirl after that episode. I banned her phone number for my own sanity. Teresa left our house and moved in with her people. I have been staying in the house, but it feels empty and full of sad memories. I am thinking of selling it and finding a new location, but the prospect of going through another major upheaval in life. It is disheartening. I learned from mutual friends that Teresa was telling everyone that she had met Mai, abused her emotionally, abandoning her. She said that I had refused to talk or work on our marriage, forcing her to seek solace elsewhere was infuriating. Hearing these lies circulating about me, Some of our friends have chosen sides. In the divorce, most have supported me. Although a handful believe Teresa's version of events, I have lost a handful of friendships as a result of this, which hurts even more than everything else. I am trying to focus on the people who have supported me through the divorce process. It has been complicated. Teresa claims she is entitled to half of everything, including Mason's inheritance. My lawyer assures me he has no legal right to her, but is delaying the process regardless of her feeling like a slap in the face. I tried to profit from my brother's death after betraying me after all. I've been dealing with a lot of despair and trust issues. Some days it's hard to get out of bed. I lost weight since I rarely eat. My performance at work has declined, but happily my supervisor has remained understanding. A positive development, I met up with an old high school classmate, Olivia. We met at a coffee shop. We started talking. Olivia lost her mother to cancer a few years ago, so she understood exactly what I was going through with Mason. We've been hanging out as friends, and it's great to have someone who understands Olivia, and I have a lot in common, something I had forgotten. We were both on the debate team in high school, and I enjoy watching old movies. She's been introducing me to new music and podcast. You have provided a wonderful distraction. Olivia doesn't force me to talk about Teresa or the divorce, but she is an excellent listener when I need to vent. Teresa went crazy when she found out I was spending time with Olivia, came to my house unexpectedly yelling that I was a hypocrite for moving on. As soon as the vilified accused me of having an affair with Olivia, which is completely false, I had to threaten to call the police before she left. The situation has been a nightmare, but I am taking things one day at a time. I am working on healing and figuring out who I am outside of my connection with Teresa. I appreciate the support of my family and friends during this difficult time. I have been trying to honor Mason's memory in constructive ways. I donated to the cancer center where he was treated, and I have volunteered whenever I can. Mason's wife, Sarah, and their children have been an excellent source of support. We have dinner together frequently, and it helps to talk about Mason with others who care about him as much as I do. Still, there are times when I miss Teresa and the life we shared. But then, I remember her betrayal, and how she has acted after I found out the truth helps emphasize that I am making the right decision in ending the marriage. I am not ready to consider dating someone again. The thought of putting myself out there and risking another heartbreak is overwhelming. At the moment, my main emphasis is on rebuilding my life and recovering from everything that has happened. I will provide another update after the divorce is official. Thanks again to everyone who has expressed kindness and advice. It really helps to know that I am not alone in this update twice. It has been around for months. Since my last update, I was relieved when the divorce was finally finalized last week. Teresa. She fought me every step of the way, trying to drag out the process and collect more money in the end. We split our joint $5,050 assets, and she received nothing from my Mason inheritance. Teresa came back to my office the day after her divorce became final. She was full, praying and begging me to reconsider, claiming that I had made a terrible mistake, but that he still loved me. I informed him politely but firmly that it was over, and I asked him to leave. She refused, causing a commotion, and security had to remove her. It was humiliating. So I took the rest of the day off from work. My employer summoned me to his office the next day. I was worried that he would be upset about the intercorruption, but he was actually very understanding. He mentioned that he had a messy divorce years ago and offered me some time off if I needed it. I appreciated his help and understanding. On a good note, Olivia, it's been okay. What started as a friendship has gradually turned into something more. We have been dating officially for about 2 months. Olivia is compassionate, understanding, and patient with me as I work through my trust issues. She encourages me to talk about Mason and never makes me feel bad for still grieving Olivia, and I have been taking it easy, which I love. We enjoy cooking together, going on long walks and watching TV shows non-stop. She's been helping me rediscover old hobbies that I had abandoned during my marriage, like playing guitar and photography. I have also been focusing on myself. I joined a gym, started learning to play guitar, and have traveled. It's great to rediscover who I am as a person. I went on a solo hike in the mountains, which I had always wanted to do, but Teresa wasn't interested. It was nice to be alone with my thoughts and my surroundings. Teresa continues to belittle anyone who will listen. She has told mutual acquaintances that I am cold and insensitive, that I never truly loved her. and that Olivia and I should have had an affair before our divorce. It's frustrating, but I'm trying not to get involved in their drama. I've started spending more time with Mason's family. His kids are growing up so fast, and it's bittersweet to see them reach milestones where Mason isn't present. We've developed a ritual of having Sunday dinners together, telling stories about Mason and keeping his memory alive. Mason would have celebrated his birthday last month. It was a tough day, but Olivia recommended that we do something to honor Dad. We ended up organizing a modest charity run in Mason's honor, with funds going toward long-term relationship. We've talked about having kids eventually, something I never imagined I would want after what happened with Teresa. It's hard to think about opening my heart again, but Olivia makes me feel protected. Work is going great. I got promoted a few months ago, which has been exciting and challenging. The new job requires more travel, which has been difficult for Olivia and I. But we are figuring out how to balance our time together, with our respective activities. I am trying to reconnect with past hobbies and interests. I joined a local amateur baseball league that I enjoyed in college, but dropped out when life got busy. It has been exciting to get back on the field and meet new people. Olivia attends my sports, whenever she can, cheering me on from the stands. Looking back, I see how toxic my relationship with Teresa had been, even before the adultery. We grew apart, but we were both afraid to accept it, while I would never excuse his affair. I have accepted what happened, and I am looking forward to the future. There are still times when I think, what if Mason hadn't gotten sick? What if he had noticed that Teresa was going to move out sooner? What if I had done things differently, but I'm learning to let go of those thoughts and focus on the present. I'm not the same person I was when I wrote the first post 2 years ago. Heartbreak and betrayal changed me, but not all the changes were negative. I've learned a lot about myself, resilience, and what I really want from a spouse, and in life for anyone going through a similar situation. Get better. Take time to heal. Surround yourself with supportive friends, and don't be afraid to start. Ash. You deserve happiness and someone who truly appreciates you. This will be my final update on this story. Thank you again for your kindness and encouragement. Over the last few years, it made a huge impact. During the worst periods, I look forward to the future. Whatever it holds, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, do so and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with more impactful real-life stories happening around you.